troubled humanity since the beginning of time. Quite simply, humanity itself. Yes, those strange and magnificent things we call people. As you know, humanity comes in a variety of sizes, shapes, colors, and even thought patterns. But yet, for something we claim to know so much about, mystery still surrounds us. Every day we see, hear, speak with, and most often have brief chance encounters with individual members of the human race. But yet, do we really honestly know them? Sure, we know some of them, friends, family members, but even then, do we really know what makes them tick? What makes a person a person? Well, tonight we plan on taking a closer look at these most interesting creatures, and it is our hope that you come to have what we refer to as a moment of clarity. With that, we hope you find a little bit of humor as well. To begin, there are two sexes in humanity, male and female. Now, for two creatures that share a common biological core, there could not be more misunderstanding, miscommunication, or just plain missing if they were actually trying. You see, both men and women have certain ideas and ways of doing things that the other of the species does not, cannot, or just plain will not understand.
I want to return this Christmas present. My husband gave it to me. It's the wrong color. It's the wrong size, and it's the wrong present, and he's the wrong husband! Every Christmas, I realize that.
It hasn't always been easy. Once, I was rotten. I looked rotten. I thought rotten. I could tell by the way people stared away from me. They were just thinking, there goes another rotten kid. So I made the decision to convert. I studied to be nice. At first it was just pure affectation. On the outside I did favors, lent money, smiled a lot. But on the inside, I stayed rotten. But give niceness an inch and it takes a mile. Niceness ran amok inside of me. I became a saint. When I went into rooms, people's eyes teared. I got dependent on it. I got nicer and nicer. Even when it wasn't required, I was nice. Guys wouldn't talk sex in front of me. And girls began to think of me as a friend. I gave my analyst guilt feelings. I tried to cut down, but I had lost the power of choice. I was hooked on nice. Not that I'm complaining, mind you.
I talk too much. I'm quite bright, so it's interesting, but nevertheless, I talk too much. You see, I'm already saying more than I should. Men hate it for a woman to blurt out, I'm bright. What they really think she's saying is, I'm brighter than you. Well, as a matter of fact, that's exactly what I'm saying. I am brighter than some of the brightest men I know. That's why it's a mistake to talk too much. Men fall behind and grow challenged and hostile. So when I'm very attracted to a man, I make it a point to talk more slowly than I would with one of my woman friends. And because I guide him along gently from insight to insight, he winds up being terribly impressed with his own brilliance, and with mine for being able to keep up with him. And he tells me I'm the first woman he's ever met who's as interesting as one of his male friends. That is love.
So I'm going out with the
this girl for the first time, and we're going to the movies. And as usual, I'm throwing out my breadcrumbs. And she asks me, what is it that I'm doing? And I tell her that I'm throwing out my breadcrumbs so I can find my way home because I have this bad sense of direction. And she laughs like it's a big joke, and she says, look, don't worry, I'll take you home. So I got mad. I said, look, we each have our own way of finding ourselves. Who's to say yours is better than mine? And she said, you can't make a whole life's philosophy out of breadcrumbs. So right there, out on the street, we got into a fight. And I got so mad that I completely walked away and forgot to follow my breadcrumbs. And an amazing thing happened. I had no trouble getting home. It seemed to make my whole past life invalid.
Most men want me to be dependent, but I don't want to be dependent because when I'm dependent, I pick the wrong men to depend on, and they betray me. On the other hand, if I'm independent, I attract the wrong kind of men who become so dependent on me that in order to break free, I betray them. Someday, I'll meet a man who won't be dependent and won't expect me to be dependent. And he won't betray me, and I won't betray him. And that will be love.
I fell in love with them the first time I looked into them, their eyes. Haven't said a word flirting with them, their eyes. You make me feel so happy. And you make me.
All right, I will if you really want me to.
I do. You know I do.
There's just one thing you must know before we do this. One thing you must understand about me.
Tell me. I'll understand.
I'll feel guilty.
You won't. I promise you won't.
It doesn't matter. I feel guilty every time. It's a characteristic.
I'm sure we can work something out.
You understand it has nothing whatsoever to do with you.
I'm glad.
I mean, I feel guilty no matter who it is. It doesn't matter if it's you or anybody.
Grand.
You do understand, don't you? I feel so much better talking it out.
Great.
I'm ready now.
Forget it.
See what I mean? Both share common concerns over life, death, and relationships, although not necessarily in that order. And yet they seem out of touch.
A dance. To function. In this dance, I celebrate the Monday. To waking up. Getting out of bed. Exercise. Coffee. Bathing. Dressing.
Did I say out of touch? You see, so much of what humanity is represented in art. Their aspirations, their lives themselves.
Excuse me, are you busy?
Yes,
How
actually, I
do you
need
do,
to finish.
Mr. Merkin Dealer? I'm your grown-up.
You're my what?
You're grown-up. Surely you always wanted a grown-up. Somebody who takes care of all those petty day-to-day affairs and who handles them cleanly and efficiently. Somebody who will not allow your insurance to lapse, your rent to fall overdue, your car to break down. Somebody who will not be nervous about calling the landlord about those needed repairs, the girlfriend about breaking a steady date, the boss about a needed raise. In other words, somebody who's trained to do all those adult things too many of us have been asked to do since childhood and still can't quite handle. Somebody who's willing and happy to stand on your own 2 feet for you, to fight all your battles, to make all your difficult decisions, i.e., you're grown-up.
You mean
I won't have to make a decision ever again.
Well, once in your employ, I, your grown-up, will make all of them.
Well, this is incredible. It's what I've dreamed of all my life. How much should I pay you?
Gee, I don't know. What do you think I'm worth?
Honey? Honey? What did I do that was so terrible? Tell me. I'll admit if it was terrible. Tell me.
Forget it. Would you please just forget it?
What did I do? Is it that you can't score any points in tennis? Is that what's bothering you? Sweetheart, I like the fact that you're so easy to beat in tennis. With all the things you do better than me, isn't it all right for me to do one thing better? For instance, you type marvelously. I wish I could type half as well. And you're terribly neat, much neater than I could ever be. And you're a very strong walker. And if it wasn't for those 2 years in the army, I'm sure you'd be making at least as much money. Honey, why are you so upset? Larry, what do you think you're doing?
Hemorrhaging!
It's a dream all humans have, and may not want to admit. To be innocent again. To exist in the world of a child, where bills, jobs, and mortgages do not exist. Simply put, humanity never seems happy with what it has. They always seek to be made again.
Sometimes, I wish I was a dictator, a ruler, a strong man, with a ruthless grasp on power, an iron grip on the helm of government. But, look, the people are my people. The law is my law. Whomever I conquer stays conquered. Premier Bernard, King Bernard, Emperor Bernard, Tsar Bernard. Boy, they could I eat girls.
The first thing I do every day is get up and put on my body. Next, I screw on my head, clip in my eyes, paste on my nose, and cut out a hole for my mouth. Then, I spray the whole thing with fixative, and I go to work. By mid-morning, my eyes are gone. By noon, I've lost the use of my mouth. By late afternoon, I can hardly breathe through my nose. By quitting time, the only thing still working is my body. So I drag it home. And I give it a bath. It wakes up. I give my head a drink. It wakes up. My date comes. I spray on some fixative, and we go out dancing. He calls me his dream girl.
I wear a paper bag over my head. When I'm happy, I wear a red paper bag. When I'm depressed, I wear a blue paper bag. And when I feel ordinary, I wear a brown paper bag.
Oh!
And when I feel grand, I wear a carton. I'm afraid of showing emotion. How else do you show emotion?
I used to read them ads. You know what I mean, those even your best friend won't tell you ads. And it used to bother me. Because if you're a right guy, nice to your mother and everything, what kind of girl is it who'd throw you over because of the wrong toothpaste you used? Or what kind of phony friend is it who would spend his time not drinking with you, but smelling you? Then it would bother me how these people in the ads became popular overnight, just by switching brand names. They didn't change their insides. They weren't better people. But suddenly they'd switch brands and become pride of the regiment. Well, this used to bother me because, frankly, people never have taken to it. Like at the office. The only desk during breaks where you can't hear a steady buzz of conversation is mine. Nobody ever comes over to me. I always have to go over to them. All my life. When we were kids and the three of us would walk down the street, I'd never be in the middle. I'd always be on the gutter side. I never got invited to join up with any clubs. I went through the entire army without once being invited to play cards. And I admit, sometimes, I used to wake up in the middle of the night, dripping sweat. And on and off like a big neon sign in the back of my head was, bad breath, underarm odor, bad breath. I got married, and my wife treated me like a janitor. The only thing she could say nice for me was that I'm good with my hands. All the other wives would be boasting about their husband's talents, and she'd call me to fix the sink. So at parties, I'd do my famous fixing the sink bit, and the rest of the time we were acquaintances. And more in the back of my head, it went, change your soap, change your toothpaste, but I don't know. I always felt that I'm me, for better or worse. I'm me. And my kids, who my wife says are at a sensitive age, they began making incentive cracks. So, I finally gave in. I changed my brand of soap. I changed my brand of hair oil, my brand of toothpaste, and my suit style. Son of a gun. The ads were right. My wife adored me. The kids loved me. Suddenly, everybody was my buddy for the first time in my life. 3 weeks of it was all I could take. Then I went back to the old ways. They prefer that brand over me. The hell with them.
Monday, I met the cutest boy. All night long, he told me that I was afraid of life. If he calls me, I'll die. Tuesday, he called me for a date. All night long, he confused me about who I am. If he likes me, I'll die. Wednesday, he says he loves me. All night long, he warned me he'd hurt me. If he touches me, I'll die. Thursday, All night long, he told me that he was my last chance to escape my bourgeois background. If I marry him, I'll die. Saturday, the wedding's set for tomorrow. All night long, my mother told me that I was ruining my life. On the way to the church, I'll die. Sunday, we're married. Tonight, I die. Monday, he eats like a pig. He drinks like a fish. He slept the whole morning away. I guess I won't die. A dance to the loss of innocence. In this dance, I have symbolized youth, its hopes, its wishes, its dreams, its choice of friends, lovers, gods. Youth, bright and eager to search life for its meaning, certain in the knowledge that it will find that meaning. Then comes disillusionment, the disappointment of friends, the inadequacies of lovers, the failure of gods, the gaining of bitter insights. There is no one who does not lie. Nothing is incorruptible. They're all cheats and out to get you. Don't believe a single one. Forget it. I don't feel like dancing.
It's like she's made of ice.
Mall, mall, mall.
What does she think I am? From outer space? I brushed my teeth before I came here.
Flesh. All I am is flesh to him.
She was affectionate enough in a Chinese restaurant. In a mob, she's always affectionate.
He can be so nice when we're outside.
All the way up here, I couldn't get her off my neck.
Outside, I can squeeze his hand and bite his ear, and he never gets the wrong idea.
But once we get indoors, suddenly it's you only recognize your own needs.
Why does he change so? Do I somehow threaten him?
I know she's alive. I saw her lip curl.
If he just didn't play those damn flamingo records.
Well, it's getting late, Gladys. I better go.
As you like, Bernard.
Same time tomorrow?
Of course.
Passion, love, kissing, all these seem to make human beings more human. But what happens when this is missing or misunderstood? Human beings have dating and marriage, and most often crossed fingers that their hopes and expectations will be fulfilled.
I've innocent love to give. Won't somebody take it?
Innocent love. Well, I'm sure innocent love is nice and all that, but it has a tendency to inhibit me.
I have undemanding love to give. Won't somebody take it?
Undemanding love gives me guilt feelings. Try someone else.
I have love that's never been tapped before. Surely someone will take it.
Untapped love drowns. Better try elsewhere.
I have stifled love. Isn't anyone gonna take it?
Stifle love makes me uncertain. You're bound to find somebody else.
I've embittered love to give. Look, you gonna take it or not?
Look, honey, I got my own problems.
I have nothing left to give.
I just get tired of hanging around in sleepy towns forever. Back roads empty for miles.
Florence,
Yes, Henry?
how long has it been now? Since we were married?
What? 6 years? When exactly was it, Henry?
Let's see. Was it before or after Friends came on?
I think it was between friends in the office. Isn't that right?
Oh yeah, because I remember the night of our first anniversary. I still glow at the thought of it, Florence.
Yeah, George Clooney. ER.
And then a year later, our little Wendy was born.
I remember Dharma and Greg.
Those were beautiful years. Florence,
Where do you think it began to go wrong, Henry?
I don't know. I've given it a lot of thought. Do you think it was because of Full House?
I wish I knew. Or maybe it was America's Funniest Home Videos. It never was the same after Bob Saget, Henry.
Now don't cry, Florence. When reality TV enters your life, I guess everything changes.
I don't think I can ever forgive American Idol, Henry.
Now don't cast blame, darling. Reality is cruel. I learned that off of America's Next Top Model.
I didn't think that life could be that way. Are we ready for that sort of world, Henry?
Ready or not, we must face it bravely.
And what about Wendy? What about Wendy, Henry?
Wendy too, Florence. Wendy too.
What's on next?
Rock of Love 3.
I'll go bring her in.
Ah, you can talk about the pit, barbecue, the band jumping, the people too high, mess around. They're doing the mess around.
No. Oh, here's a good one, Bernard.
Who's that?
Name's Charlotte. Built like mad. Lives in Brooklyn.
Too far. Don't you have anyone in the city?
Hey, Dolores. How about Dolores?
Not for Bernard.
Dolores. Who's Dolores?
Should we give him Dolores?
She'd destroy you, Bernard.
Come on, come on.
This is the real stuff. A dancer. Lives in the village.
Call her now.
Now. But it's after midnight.
For Dolores, it's only lunchtime.
Hello, am I speaking to Dolores?
Don't use my name.
Yes, my name is Bernard. I was not late. A mutual friend suggested I call you. Why don't I pick up some beer and drop over for a while? She said yes. after midnight. And she's going to see me. She's going to see me! How can you have any respect for someone like that?
You have contempt for me.
I love you.
Then why do you treat me as if I'm stupid?
I love you.
But you have no interest in my opinions.
I love you.
But when your friends are around, you behave as if I'm invisible.
I love you.
Then why do you act as if you don't like me?
Who said anything about liking you? I just love you.
I just fulfill a dream on in my imagination. We drive upon the kiss. Sweetheart, I ask no more than this. I kiss the bell, the dream on.
The day I met Sylvia, I was sure I had met my dream girl. Don't think of me as your dream girl, Sylvia said, or I'm bound to disappoint you. Well, that's exactly what my dream girl would say, I told her, and we were married. 7 years later, I said to Sylvia, all we do is talk about money, and I've come to the conclusion that you're not my dream girl. So I left to think things over. What I decided was that while Sylvia had her shortcomings, she still had a better body than all of my friends' wives. When I returned home, this dumpy, middle-aged woman answered the door. Where's Sylvia? I demanded. I'm Sylvia, she said. So I threw her out. And I don't care how long she knocks. I'm not letting in any strangers until the Sylvia I settled for comes home.
By the time Frank told me he was leaving on a business trip for a month, I'd lost all feeling for him. Every dinner when he'd come, I'd try to rekindle the flame, but all I could think as he gobbled up my chicken was, all I am is a servant to you, Frank. So when he announced he was going away, I was delighted. With Frank gone, I could find myself. I could make plans. The first week Frank was away, I went out 7 times. The phone never stopped ringing. I had a marvelous time. The second week Frank was away, I got tired of the same old faces, same old lines. I remembered what had driven me to marry Frank in the first place. The third week Frank was away, I felt closer to him than I had in years. I stayed home, read Jane Austen, slept on Frank's side of the bed. The fourth week Frank was away, I fell madly in love with him. I hated myself for my withdrawal, my failure of him. The fifth week, Frank came home. The minute he walked in the door and said, "I'm back, darling," I withdrew. I can hardly wait for his next business trip, so I can love Frank again.
I've got you, oh, under my skin. I've got you, deep in my heart.
Love, change, expectations, loneliness. Humans have amazing ways of dealing with their world. Take Walter Fay, for example.
Other people always disappointed Walter Fay.
Traitors.
Other people were always either ignoring him,
I'm a person.
rejecting him,
I'm a person.
or betraying him.
I'm not a person?
This made Walter Fay sulk. A lot.
My problem is other people. By myself, I get along fine. But put me in a room with one other person, and I become only half of me. Put me in a room with 2 other people, I become only 1/10 of me. Put me in a room with a mob, and I'm nobody. The more people I'm with, the less of me it is who's there. And the more I'm alone, the more of me there is to be alone with.
And so Walter Fay regularly vowed never to go out again.
Who needs them? Yes, hello? Free? Why wouldn't I be free? Is 9 o'clock too early?
Walter Fay was the kind of man who hated parties.
It's my policy.
He always said,
There's no such thing as real conversation at a party.
he always said,
I've never even met a girl I liked at a party.
he always said.
I don't really know why I go.
Walter Fay regularly fell in love at every party he went to.
There's no such thing as real conversation at a party. I've never even met a man I liked at a party. I don't really know why I go.
I love you.
Eventually, his love always disappointed him,
I'm busy tomorrow.
ignored him,
I'm busy the day after tomorrow.
rejected him,
I'm busy the day after tomorrow.
and betrayed him.
Anyhow, you're too short.
The world had no time for Walter Fay. He tried to be alone, but it was too hard.
If only being alone didn't depend on other people.
Other people never called him. He always had to call other people.
Other people must have very small phone bills.
So one day he made a decision. If other people didn't need him, he wouldn't need other people.
Other people are my enemy.
And that's how he saw life up till now. A battle between himself and his enemies. When it was between himself and a girl, he called it Battle of the Sexes.
Castrator.
When it was between himself and his boss, he called it Class Warfare.
Fascist.
When it was between himself and his family, he had called it Neurosis.
Psychopaths.
They well knew one did not go to his enemies' assistance, one went to his friends.
But I'm my only friend. If only I could talk and never have to listen. If only I could take and never be forced to give. If only I could have for myself what other people have for themselves.
So one day, he went down to his basement workshop and invented himself a lonely machine.
It's mine. It's all mine. You know, I've never had something that was all mine before.
The lonely machine did whatever he wanted it to do. It listened to him. It took long walks in the country. It looked at the stars with him.
See the handle?
Walter Fay invented a voice so it could say nice things.
What do they know? You're better.
Yeah.
There was not a need that Walter Fay had that the machine did not answer. It was a mother to him.
When you're in trouble, who's the only one you can turn to?
My machine.
It was a father to him.
Are you sure you've made a wise decision, my Walter?
Maybe you're right.
It was his lover.
A daisy. I love daisies.
Machines can't afford much, but you, Walter, deserve the best.
For the first time, Walter Fay could be himself with another. He could let loose. He could be aggressive.
Argue. All you ever do is argue. Go to your room.
Yes, Walter.
He could feel self-pity.
Sorry! All you ever feel is sorry for yourself! Go to your room!
Yes.
He could be forgiving.
I was wrong, my machine. Wrong, wrong,
I
wrong.
won't listen to you, Walter! It was I!
Walter Fay had a relationship. He swelled with a new assurance.
Do you notice anything different about me, my machine?
You'll always be the same to me, Walter. Perfect.
But being perfect, where he had always been perfect, had enough for Walter Fay.
You seem strangely quiet tonight, Walter. Is something bothering you?
He wanted to be perfect on enemy ground.
I think I'll go for a walk.
He began going to parties again.
Who is that devastating man with that self-satisfied smile on his face?
Now that he didn't need anybody, didn't care for anybody, he began being invited everywhere.
Sorry, old machine. Dinner out again tonight. The Kissingers.
Have a nice time, Walter. Don't worry about me.
Walter Fay knew the machine was hurt, but he also knew something else. He enjoyed hurting the machine. He was philosophical about it.
That's life. Taxi!
He began turning the machine against his new friends, and his new friends against the machine.
Sorry, kids. Can't play with you tomorrow night. Duty calls at home, you know.
Well, have a nice time, Walter.
Yeah, don't worry about us.
But life at home wasn't as much fun as it used to.
You're bored with me.
Don't be foolish.
You have nothing to say to me anymore.
There's simply nothing to say.
Walter, who hears the statements that you once told me?
Will you kindly stop your nagging?
Walter, what was my crime? What was my terrible crime?
I have a date!
He began coming home later and later. He always hoped the machine would be asleep. It never was.
Drinking again?
I'm sorry, Walter.
The point was that Walter Fay needed something when he needed it, and not after he stopped needing it.
The machine was only a means to an end.
He explained to himself.
It was a bridge between me and other people.
He saw it all clearly now.
Lonely machines are splendid, but they have their place.
Walter Fay had outgrown his machine.
It's nobody's fault.
So one day, he made an announcement.
Machine, old friend, it's not going to be easy to tell you this.
Break my heart. I've been expecting it.
I'm bringing a young lady to live here next week.
Break my heart. I've been expecting it.
I see no reason why the three of us can't live happily together.
Oh, Walter, then you still want me.
Yes, but for now, until she gets used to you, would you mind not saying anything?
I've been expecting it.
So, one day, a stranger named Mercedes came into the home of Walter Fay and the machine. She was a mother to him.
When you're in trouble, who's the only one you can turn to?
My Mercedes.
She was a father to him.
Are you sure you've made a wise decision, my Walter?
Maybe you're right.
She was his lover.
Oh, Walter, you hurt me.
Did I really?
But at odd moments, when Mercedes was out organizing a charity drive, Walter Fay wheeled out his lonely machine.
So, how are things?
Not bad. And you?
But there no longer seemed to be any contact.
So, how are you? So, how are things? So, how are
And receiving no answer, he wheeled it into the upstairs closet and never wheeled it out again. Until one day, Mercedes came upon it.
Oh, Walter, what a lovely surprise. A dressmaker's dummy.
And she made many dresses and gave many parties. And Walter Fay never felt disappointed, ignored, rejected, or betrayed, or any other feeling, ever again.
To summer,
understand that they shouldn't listen to what I say. They should listen to what I mean. What I say is blah, blah, blah. What I mean is beauty and poetry. What I say is gibble, gabble, gibble. What I mean is I am a lost soul. Study my haunted eyes. And what I say is ha, ha, ha. What I mean is life is a waste and nobody gives a thing for me. Someday, I'll meet a man who will ignore my stupid words and know instantly the fragile, delicate perfection that lies behind them. He'll see through me, and ours will be a beautiful love. I'll hurt him.
One night, driving home to evening cocktails, I was suddenly struck through the windshield by the rays of the full moon. And I grew body hair, pointed ears, cloven hooves, and a tail. And I thought, at last, it's the real me. With fear secretly mingled with delight, I arrived home, where my wife said, "Your dinner's cold, and stop looking at me in that accusing way." And my son said, "All the other daddies are good at fixing things. Fingers like claws." And my little girl said, "How come I have to have the only father in the block who's different?" So, I ate them up. Girls really shouldn't marry.
Don't scream, give me your purse.
I wasn't going to scream. I was going to try to discuss this with you.
It won't work. 3 times this week, broads have discussed me out of taking their pocketbooks. I got like 2, you know.
Faster than the speed of light.
Oh my God!
More powerful than an express train.
It's
leaps over buildings in a single bound.
Superman!
Scoundrel won't harm you again, madam. Else he'll have to reckon with Superman.
What is this? Gag?
Indeed, no, madam. Superman does not gag. Superman doesn't have a sense of humor.
You can't really be Superman.
But I am.
You mean who I used to read in comic books all the time?
Superman, madam. Superman.
There's something wrong.
Madam.
Doesn't that costume make you look lumpy when you wear your street clothes? I mean the cape and all.
Well, it is a little warm. I usually take off summers.
Why do you wear it?
What?
You know what I mean. The costume, the cape.
Well, it's the uniform of Superman.
It's rather effeminate, don't you think?
Hold on.
It is terribly skin tight. You're not a transvestite, are you? You don't have to answer if you don't want to.
What?
You know, do you rescue more men than women?
I rescue only those in dire straits.
Why?
What? Why what?
Why this compulsion to rescue? Is it your job? Do you get paid for it? Are you a cop?
Nobody hired me, if that's what you mean.
Then you just do it for kicks? Run around in skin-tight leotards and rescue people for the thrill of it?
I fight crime.
You can't fight crime in a business suit.
You think I'm an exhibitionist.
You could spend more time reading.
I think it's wrong to judge Superman the way you judge other people.
Everybody thinks he's special, but they don't go around in skin-tight leotards
cards.
Right, but do rescue more men than women. More men get into trouble than women. I'm all right.
I'm not arguing.
Well, I know what you're thinking.
How come you're not married?
I fight crime most of the time.
A man your age?
You can't judge me the way you judge Earth people. I admit that if I came from Earth and wore effeminate skin-tight leotards and saved more men than women, it would seem suspicious. I am from Krypton!
I didn't say a word.
But I don't want you going away with the wrong idea.
If it makes you more secure to be what you call Superman, then...
I am! I tell you I am! Do you want me to prove it to you? Do you want me to leap over a tall building in a single bound?
Honey, you don't have to prove anything to me. Why hurt yourself? Jobs that torment you so terribly that you have to go around proving your masculinity to everybody.
All right. I'm not Superman, all right? I'm not. It's all a gag.
You'll see, you've come to a wise conclusion.
But you will admit I'm better than average?
I'm sure you are.
Can I take you to the theater tomorrow night?
I'm washing my hair.
The next night?
I'm sorry I'm busy.
Well, can I see you sometime?
Well, the evenings are hard. Maybe for lunch. You won't wear that costume?
No. A suit, I swear. A suit. I'll go out this minute and buy a suit.
What's the matter? You're standing funny.
I've got a stomachache. I can make it if I go slow. You're very considerate.
Take it easy. And don't rush around so much. You'll find that you'll feel better.
You've been a great help.
Don't scream! Give me your purse!
Superman! Come quick! Superman!
Who?
Everything seems to be tied to that strange fact of human existence. That thing called insecurity. This often manifests itself in the fact that human beings often seem nervous, wound up, or just plain testy, for lack of a more scientific word. Now, I do realize that this has been quite a lot of information on our study subject, so, for that reason, we will take a little break for you to organize your thoughts and opinions. You may also wish to discuss them with the entity seated next to you. Either way, we'll be back in about 15 minutes. Welcome back. In this section of our examination of the human condition, we take a look at how the human species deals with the everyday expectations, foreign tasks, and day-to-day events that shape who each human develops into. Take the case of one, Mr. Harold Swerve.
Harold Swerve could hit a baseball farther than any man alive. Harold Swerve could kick a football farther than any man alive. Harold Swerve could run the mile faster than any man alive. Only he wouldn't. Baseball and football, man. Track and field magnates came to Harold Swerve. They said,
Sign with us.
You'll have free transportation.
Lots of
A
banquets.
team jacket with your name on it. Girls!
and to all of them, Harold Swerve replied,
No.
he just wanted to go on making his living as a filing clerk.
I don't like the sports business. I like the filing clerk business. The sports business doesn't present a challenge. The filing clerk business presents a challenge. Someday, I may make bookkeeper.
So all the baseball magnates and the football magnates and the track and field magnates got together and issued a press release.
Harold Swerve won't play the game.
The people read the press release and said,
Obviously, any man who doesn't play the game is against the game. And if he's against the game, then he's against fair play. And if he's against fair play, he's against our way of life.
and to all this, Harold Swerve replied,
Leave me alone.
that's where matters seemed to settle. Then the new Olympics were announced. Russia was to have its greatest team ever. It had someone who could hit a baseball farther than anyone. It had someone who could kick a football farther than anyone. It had someone who could run the mile faster than anyone.
Wait till we tell the State Department.
The State Department called a conference.
Harold Swerve must enter the Olympics.
So they sent a representative. No, he returned with a message.
He says no.
So they checked his loyalty file.
He never belonged to anything. Anything?
Anything.
And that seemed to be it. Harold Swerve just wasn't interested in belonging. The Secretary of State went to see him.
But you've got to belong. Everyone belongs to something, not me.
It is the rule of a democracy that the majority decides. The majority has decided they want you to play in the Olympics. Are you trying to crumble our foundations?
I'm just trying to be left alone.
Harold Swerve is a foundation crumbler.
Congress threatened to draft Harold Swerve into the Olympics. Finally, a special appeal came from the president.
Do you want us to lose? So that's what's bothering everybody? But what's wrong with losing? It's just a game.
Everyone was thrown into confusion.
Losing is just the other side of winning. Somebody has to do it.
Mr. President,
The public expressed its outrage. They booed. Boo! They hissed. Hiss! They burned Olympic torches on his lawn.
Go back to where you came from, Swerve.
Finally, just when things were at its hottest, Harold Swerve came away from his filing cabinet and said,
All right, I'll play.
the country was electrified. Both political parties claimed credit.
I did it.
We did it.
Typical.
The first event was who could hit a baseball the farthest. The Russian people's hero, Smedyakov, went first.
$912 feet, 6 inches.
Harold Swerd went second.
Nail it, Swerg!
912 feet, 6 inches.
The next event was who could kick a football the farthest. The Russian people's hero kicker Brozhnikovsky went first.
310 yards, 4 feet, 1 inch.
Harold Swerd went second.
Kick it in the pants, Swerg!
310 yards, 4 feet, 1 inch.
Grumblings of discontent began to murmur through the crowd. The last event was the mile. Harold Swerd's opponent was the Russian people's fastest runner, Ali Kavelshkaboo. It was a tie. Harold Swerd was called before the judges.
Harold Swerd, you were not giving your all.
I most certainly was.
Then why didn't you win?
Winning doesn't take my all. Equaling takes my all.
How's that?
How's that? Let's see you try to kick a football exactly 310 yards, 4 feet, and 1 inch. It was quite a challenge. I wasn't sure I could do it.
But the judges didn't seem to understand.
Anyone who wants a record equaled, come on around.
But no one came around. Because no one is interested in having records equal. So they left Harold Swerd alone, which is exactly the way he wanted it.
Acceptance, frustration, a day-to-day life that may cause many to feel they are actually cursed. All these can be seen in even the most mundane activities humans do.
So, I go to the laundromat to do a wash. Included in the wash are 8 pairs of socks. Out of the wash come 6 pairs of socks, plus 1 black sock and 1 blue sock. A week later, I go to the laundromat to do a wash. This time in the wash are 6 pairs of socks. Out of the wash come 4 pairs of socks, plus 1 brown sock and 1 gray sock. A week later, I go to the laundromat to do a wash. This time in the wash are 4 pairs of socks. Out of the wash come 2 pairs of socks. The other ones never show up. The next day, as an experiment, I put in nothing but my last 2 pairs of socks. Out of the wash comes a body stocking. And in the body stocking, I find a note, and it says, "Quit trifling with the laws of nature and bring the machine more socks."
Best regards, Philip. Ever since they were little, I told them they'd grow up, they'd leave us, they'd break our hearts. Did I or didn't I tell them?
That's the way children are these days. They don't listen.
And what did they say? No, Pa, no. We'll always look after you. Did they or didn't they?
Children always have to contradict.
I slid notes under the door. Don't tell me you won't break our hearts. I'm your father.
Notes in a family? Who taught them how to read?
But I told them, didn't I? Hundreds of times, didn't I? No, they said, we'll never leave you. And the next moment it's, don't I have the right to a little privacy?
Privacy? Who paid their doctor bills?
So, they grew up and they left us. So who was right, the father or the children?
A child, right? How could a child be right?
But you know what? A funny thing happened. They didn't break my heart. As a matter of fact, I felt a whole lot better.
Oh, me too. 100%.
After all these years, what a discovery to make.
We never really liked children.
Ever since I was a little kid, I didn't want to be me. I wanted to be Billy Whittleton. Billy Whittleton didn't even like me. I walked like he walked. I talked like he talked. I even signed up for the same high school he signed up for, which was when Billy Whittleton changed. He began to hang around with Herbie Vanderman. He walked like Herbie Vanderman. I talked like Herbie Vanderman. He mixed me up. I began to walk and talk like Billy Whittleton's imitation of Herbie Vanderman. And then it dawned on me that Herbie Vanderman, I walked and talked like Joey Haverland. And Joey Haverland walked and talked like Corky Savinson. So here I am, walking and talking like Billy Whittleton's imitation of Herbie Vanderman's version of Joey Haverland, trying to walk and talk like Corky Savinson. And who do you think Corky Savinson's always walking and talking like? Of all people, Dopey Kenny Wellington. That little pest who walks and talks like me.
And dreams that seem too bizarre to be real, and yet reflect the fears that so many humans have. Take George, for example.
Once, there was a man named George who lived on the moon. No kidding. George didn't have much to do on the moon. He slept, he took long walks. He kept trying to figure out how he got there.
There must be a logical explanation.
But he never made any headway. Aside from feeling that he was basically non-moon, George had no idea who he was or how he got there. All he knew definitely was that, undoubtedly, his name was George.
One must begin somewhere.
And that somehow, he was unique.
I own the moon. It's mine, every inch of it. Sometimes I feel rather smug about it. Hey there, my moon. Someday I'll change your name to George.
But this was a false exuberance. George felt no real connection with the land.
How can I when I bounce all the time?
Mostly, he was concerned about his roots. He thought about his roots quite a bit. But no matter how hard he thought, he couldn't come up with a single thing. So then he'd concentrate on his values. Because if he could sort out his values, it would tell him something about his background. And if he knew something about his background, it would give him some indication of his roots. But he couldn't come up with a single value, all of which was pretty depressing. One day, George decided
My trouble is I'm too introspective. I need some outside interests.
So he began a rock collection.
Rocks! Millions of rocks! I bet nobody's ever collected this many rocks. I hate rocks.
Rocks had no meaning for George, so he began to count craters.
13,331, 13,332. All I am is a statistician.
George felt that he was thinking too much. He needed to regain the feeling of his body. So, he learned to drop kick his rock collection into the craters.
500 points.
But he ran out of rocks. George was just wasting time, and he knew it. What good was it to collect rocks, to count craters, to fill the craters you counted with the rocks you've collected, and to empty the craters and start all over again? Was this a way for a man to spend his life?
It lacks a dignity.
George realized that he had no sense of himself. Also that he had no sense of others. How could he have any dignity without a context? He didn't know who he was or what or anything.
A man has to believe in something.
So, since he was the only thing around, George decided to believe in himself.
Hail George!
He made up poems about himself.
George. George, George, George. George.
Heavy man. He made up stories about himself.
So George cured the plague, ended the famine, and turned back the flood.
But then, he awoke one morning and found that he had forgotten his name.
That's what I get. Serves me right.
So he stopped believing in himself. He looked around for something else to believe in. He tried to believe in rocks.
Hail!
But rocks were so ordinary. He tried to believe in craters.
Hail!
But since he had kicked rocks into them, he hadn't much respect for craters. He looked around for something else to believe in, but everything was inadequate. George needed something spectacular, something way beyond his experience. And then one day, he looked up and noticed space.
That's what I'll believe in.
There were all sorts of advantages to believing in space. For one thing, it was out there, way out there.
And it fills up everything. That's pretty impressive.
And it was obviously unknown.
It could never be disillusioning.
And it was dark with white blotches. Very attractive, really. Much more imposing than those rocks and craters he used to worship.
It's amazing how I've matured in my beliefs.
George spent his days dreaming about space.
If space is really there, and I know it must be because I can see it, then I must really be here, or else I wouldn't know space is there because I couldn't see it. And if I can see space, then space must, in all logic, be able to see me, which proves that I exist. Space and George, George and space, a team.
It almost made him feel like crying. Then one day, they began shooting rockets off at him. George was overjoyed.
They're coming for me! This way, fellas! This way!
He tied a red handkerchief to a big rock.
If you really believe, it has to come true.
But the rocket didn't come close. George wasn't too sad, though. Space was no longer mysterious and intangible. Space had people in it, and they were trying to rescue him. He spent his days sitting on the dark side, dreaming about them.
First of all, they must be very kind to go to all this trouble. They must be very humanitarian and have lots of favorite charities. They'll come here and I'll be very polite and I'll ask them if they'd like to stay over. And they'll say, well, we do have to get back and then we'll take off and I'll be home, wherever that is. And There'll be big parades and testimonial dinners, all because I'm the only expert on the moon.
But then George realized that he wasn't an expert on the moon. In fact, he really didn't know much about it at all.
I only live here.
He didn't know whether those holes actually were craters or not. Maybe they were coal mines.
Why do I always wait till the last minute?
He didn't know why it was that he bounced all the time, or why he was never hungry though there wasn't any food to eat, or why he didn't need a helmet to breathe.
My trouble is I'm not very observant. Well, they'll come here expecting all kinds of information, and what can I tell them? Nothing! Oh, I'm sure they'll be very polite about it. They'll pretend not even to notice. They'll say, but my, don't you dress neatly. I'll feel like a fool!
And then one day, they shot off another rocket. George tied his handkerchief again, but on a less conspicuous rock. He began to feel anxious about the whole thing.
What do they want from me? I'm not analytical. They'll just have to understand. Oh, a fat lot they'll care. They'll be scientists, cold, dispassionate, no time for my problems. Oh, they probably don't even know I'm here.
But once more, the rocket didn't come close.
Wise guys.
But George knew that ultimately, they would come. He spent his days sitting on the dark side, dreaming about what it would be like.
They'll come out of those damn rockets, and I bet the first thing they'll do is stick up their flag. Their flag on my moon. Then they'll make fun of me. They'll say, oh, you didn't know about gravity? You hear that, gang? Been on the moon this whole time and he didn't know about gravity. Then they'll give me their bags to carry, and they'll tell inside jokes. They'll say, oh, we'd love to take you along, but you see how crowded we are with all these rock samples? Would you mind giving us a shove?
George thought about the way things used to be. What fun he'd had drop-kicking rocks into craters. What a ball it had been to just sit around the moon and think about his roots.
They've spoiled it.
And then one day, they shot off another rocket. George tried to use body English to make it go away, but the rocket kept coming.
It's an invasion!
Then, suddenly the fear and indecision which had held him for weeks was no more. George knew what he had to do.
This is war. I don't care how many rocks they have. I know the terrain.
And he patiently waited.
Extremely robust.
That's true.
Your flower is dark and ungainly and may not live till morning.
Well, it certainly will be a struggle.
I love my flower for all of its richness and grandeur.
Well, I love my flower for its spiritual values.
What spiritual values?
My flower is a tragic flower. It has soul. It has poetry.
Just because my flower is bigger, it can't have poetry?
My flower must struggle for hourly survival. It's taken with basics. It broods deep things.
Are you calling my flower a dilettante?
Your flower is rich and probably has a leisure problem.
I suddenly feel like beating your flower over the head with my flower.
Well, my flower would die lovingly.
I apologize. I have a vulgar flower.
My flower truly understands. Humans, you see, are quite unique in the universe. They even have the ability to criticize others for exhibiting the exact same characteristics they themselves exhibit.
Have you ever met someone who has never had an original thought in his life?
If you ask me, takes all kinds.
I mean, someone who in all his years of living has never uttered a word that was unhackneyed or a sentence that was not a cliche.
My opinion, people are pretty much the same the world over.
Have you ever heard a guy like that engage in a serious intellectual discussion?
It is a free country.
And the guy he's talking to is exactly the way he is. Have you ever heard something like that?
I like to think that while I may not agree with what the man says, I will defend his right to say it.
And nobody is saying anything, but each thinks he's expressing deep, profound thoughts. I tell you, it is depressing.
Well, this is my own point of view. But what are you going to do? Fight City Hall?
If only some of us listen to ourselves. Why don't we ever try to get perspective?
I've given that a lot of thought. And I guess we live and learn. We live and learn.
If only we had the power to see ourselves as others see us.
I used to feel that way. But I outgrew it.
So, when do you think it's coming?
I don't know. Pretty soon.
What do you think it will be over? China?
China, maybe. Africa, maybe. The Middle East, maybe. They'll find something.
Are you going to fight?
It would seem the patriotic thing to do. I haven't made up my mind yet.
I'm going to go along with our leaders. They have access to information I don't have.
Oh, obviously they all know what they're doing. They all have PhDs.
If they say fight, I'll fight. The idea of a democracy is that people shouldn't be forced into doing what the government wants. They should do it on their own.
Oh, I'm not so concerned about myself, but I do hope they don't blow up the Capitol building.
If they use the neutron bomb, they won't even touch the Capitol building.
The neutron bomb? What's the neutron bomb?
It only kills people. It doesn't harm property or machinery.
Doesn't harm machines. Very interesting.
How so?
Then most of us will be safe.
Throughout this show, you have been given various examples of humanity. However, the one thing we hope you've seen that sets them apart is their humanity, their emotions, their fears, joys, triumphs, and failures. This is what makes them who and what they are.
I used to work for the FBI, assigned to the New Left, underground agent to check out communist infiltration. All pretty routine, demonstrating, disrupting, occupying. Then I met Sam, strong, sensitive. We fell in love. We decided on marriage, but my secret separated us. I had to tell him. I proceeded to do so. On our wedding night, I reported, Sam, I'm an underground agent for the FBI. Sam actually wept. Then, he told me his secret. Edna, he reported, I'm an underground communist trying to infiltrate the FBI. You can imagine what followed. A lover's quarrel. I insisted Sam give up his work. He insisted I give up mine. We consulted a marriage counselor. He advised us to compromise. All forms of extremism are misguided, he reported. Quit your respective jobs and join a community center. I couldn't. Sam couldn't. We said goodbye, and I turned him in. I'll always wait for you, Sam.
I never used to go out on the street. I was always afraid I'd get beat up. I knew it was a stupid fear, and I knew it was unrealistic. You know, I actually looked up statistics on people who got beat up when they went out onto the street. It's surprisingly small. But still, I had all my food delivered. I had all my newspapers delivered. All my dates were at my house. And as long as I didn't go out on the street, I seemed to be fine. Until one day I was sitting comfortably in my living room, and it came to me. I did not dare go into the kitchen. If I went into the kitchen, I'd get beat up. So I sat through all 4 late shows thinking my problem out. And at 5 in the morning, I finally concluded it wasn't anybody on the outside I was afraid of. It was actually me that I was afraid of. That the only person who regularly beat myself up was me. So, I arose without fear and went into the kitchen. And nobody beat me up. And I put on my coat without fear and went out onto the street. And nobody beat me up. For the first time in years, I felt alive. I knew that I would never, never be afraid again. I felt so good that the first couple of people I saw, I beat up.
Try to see it my way. I'm nearly 20, and if I was ever going to make a break, now was the time to do it. Imagine, half my girlfriends were already separated from their husbands, and here I was, still living at home. So I told my parents I was moving out. You can't imagine the yelling and screaming. My father said, "You're breaking your mother's heart." My mother said, "What was my crime? What was my terrible crime?" And before I knew it, we were in an argument. I told them both that they needed analysis. They told me I have a filthy mouth. Suddenly, I was on the street with my raincoat, my suitcase, and my tennis racket. But I had no place to move. So I looked around downtown, and everything was too expensive, and evening came, and all my girlfriends had already reconciled with their husbands, so there was absolutely no place I could spend the night. Well, frankly, what on earth could I do? I waited till it was way past my parents' bedtime. Then I snuck back into the house and set the alarm in my bedroom for 6 the next morning. Then I slept on top of the bed so I wouldn't wrinkle any sheets, sucked some breakfast in the morning, and got up before anyone was up. I've been living that way for 2 months now. Every night after midnight, I sneak back into the house, sleep on top of the bed till 6 the next morning, have breakfast, and sneak out. And every day, I call up my parents from the downstairs drugstore, and they yell and cry at me to come back. But of course, I will always say no. I'll never give up my independence. My trouble is, I'm named Bernard. Who made it my name? Did I make it my name? I had hostile parents and they named me Bernard. Is that my fault? Okay, so Bernard is fine for other people, but all my life when I was out on the street and somebody said, "Bernard," I thought they were speaking to someone else. And once I realized it was me they were talking to, I felt disappointed. You see, I just can't identify with the name. Inside, I'm all different from a Bernard. If you knew me on the inside, you wouldn't recognize me from knowing me on the outside. You should see me when I'm by myself. Inside me begins to flourish and come alive. And then somebody has to come along and say, "Bernard," and the inside me gets crushed.
I know it would be different if people just called me by my inside name. Spike.
And so, this is where we leave you, with what we hope is a little clearer picture of what it actually means to be human. With all their failings, insecurities, faults, and foibles, each person is quite unique. It has been said that human beings are at their best when things around them are at their worst. This is very true. So, for all that they bring us, the laughter, the tears, the frustrations, and the joys, we salute them for what they are. Simply people. And we thank the powers that be for putting them here. Thank you for joining us on our study. Enjoy your lives, for they are yours and yours alone. Good night.